All right. So with that said, right, notice like, again, we don't even have to have a main class because part of the public void in TestNg, these tags make sure that this is the code that needs to be executed. Okay. As long as we apply the right tag, it will run. And again, I should probably call it the right name, which is annotation. So test annotation to run the test, but the order in which each tag or annotation runs is really, really descriptive. So in an interview, if they ask you, what does after test do? Okay, well, after test runs right after the after annotation, sorry, the test annotation, right? Because after test. Okay, what does after scenario do? Well, after scenario runs right after the whole sorry, not scenario, after class, basically. So meaning this is your beginning of the class, right? Number 12, as soon as the test finishes, maybe you have 10, 15 tests here, it'll run all of them. And then at the end, it will run the after class. Fariha, you had a question?
Yes, the question is when I was doing the after test, then I erase it and I do the after class. He's doing the same thing. So is the same?
Yeah,
Both of them are
yeah,
same?
it's very similar. It's very similar. We can look at the order in which, so TestNg annotation orders, I guess. Let me see. So if you look at the order, I don't know if this one is order of TestNg. Okay, there you go. So you see before suite, right? That means if you run more than one class, it's a suite, which could be like 20 test case, 30 test case, 40 test case, right? This will run once before all 40 test case. And then it will, once the 40 test cases are done, then it will run after once. That's it. Then you have before test. It will run per class. Each class, okay, sorry, this is before test. So basically before test is going to run once first before the test starts, and then it will run all of the tests in between, and then it will run after tests, right? Before class, the difference is that in your class, right, it will run right here, only this class. So if you run multiple class, you'll see that before class will run multiple times. Right now, you're running only one class. That's why you're not seeing the difference between tests, before test and before class. But if you had to run, let's say 20 different classes at the same time, then you would see it will run 20 different times. Okay, and this would run once before the test.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and even I get confused with this because the order is crazy, right? Because you wouldn't really know which one to use before test or before class until you see the problem with before class. For example, what if you want to run once only before all of the test, right? Then you want to run this, not this one. If you want to run once per class, for example, each class has a unique setup, for example, right? Each class has unique at this point, like driver dot, for example, driver dot, this one, driver create, right? It shouldn't be before, it should be before tests, right? Because
Mhm.
it should run only single once and then that done, right? Because we
Yeah.
don't want to create driver again and again and again for each test. We already have a driver. So it really, really matters where you want to use these tags. And again, these tags is one way to organize your test and put it in an order in which, like this one, right, where beginning of your test right here and ended right here. And then the only difference, major difference, is that you can give it a name and you can put your test, and anything that doesn't belong to the test, which helps to do the test, you're putting somewhere else. For example, creating the web driver, it's not part of the test, it's just part of the setup. You need to have the browser to run your test. And that's exactly what you're doing here. And you're keeping it separate. So if something fails here, it will not tell you that test failed. It will just say setup failed. Chrome creating driver failed, right? Which is much better than saying your test failed because of the driver.
So They are all independent.
Think about like a method. So for example, if somewhere here field, it'll say create driver field, right? At least it will not say verify the user can register
Oh,
field, because this is nothing to do with
yes, I
registering.
get it. Okay,
Yeah,
I get it. Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, so we'll dive into the problems that you guys are facing. Any question at all about TestNg, that the way the TestNg works?
Teacher, I have a question about
Mm-hmm.
after TestNg. What kind of report we need to put the after TestNg? I'm not sure. We feel that after TestNg is after the test, but what kind of we test it? For example, we validate the URL
Mm-hmm.
and it's finished. When it's finished, and we need to something report or I don't know. I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking.
The question is, after the test run,
Yes,
you
after
you
the
need a report, right? Is that the question? Like, why do you need the report, or when?
no.
Or
My question is that at after test,
mhm.
what kind of thing we need to put over there?
Okay. Okay, so add after test. So at test means is your test, right? So everything belongs to your test is gotta be here.
Yes,
Add after test is like tear down. Let's say part of your test was to open a browser. Don't you need to close that? Like if you
yes,
need to close that, then you will add it to your add after test. And then what if you created maybe some data? For example, this username, password, and everything. After the test, you want to delete that maybe, right? That is not a test, but you're just doing a cleanup.
okay, I understand. I
Yeah,
understand.
so that'll be after. That's nothing to do with the test. You already finished your main portion. This is like main course. In the in
Yeah,
in the way of getting there, whatever you need to do, you can keep them separate, so that way your test is clean. And when the
I
test
understand.
fails, it
I
doesn't
understand.
really. Yeah. All
So
right.
computer doesn't read the report we just mentioned for ourselves. For example, we then we read the something for understanding for us. Then we can remove that after test. Is that okay?
Mm,
For example,
so
we input the data, we input the sequence one by one. We did. We wrote it here, and when it done for testing, it doesn't need more. That's why we need to remove after test. Is that okay?
um I don't know if you want to remove this, because like when you write your test
Hmm.
and you edit, let's say after, before and after, right?
Yes.
um you want to keep it there, because this is part of basically tear down, part of closing, let's say part of cleanup, right? So if your test ran, therefore it created something that you want to delete, and that could be your part of after test. In this case, for learning purposes, we are just closing the browser. Otherwise, you would see too many.
Only closing the browser.
Yes, but that is not like, okay, as a QA engineer, right? You have to think what you need for after test and before test. This is an example. So you cannot go to a company and say, I'm going to only do these lines because that's what I learned. This is an example where you delete the browser. There will be times where you want to run 200 test cases without removing the browser. You want to run it under the same browser. Once you're done, then you want to close the browser. So in this case, you will say after suite. It's really, really what you need. It's really what you need at the time, and why you need it. You have to be able to understand before you apply. This is not something that I can tell you like, okay, you exactly for after test, you have to put this and that's it. This is not the way it is. What I'm showing you is an example, and this may or may not be the case for you when you join a company.
Thank you, teacher.
Mhm. Anybody else?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, is it up to me how many tests I like the test annotation I decide to like add? Like for here, you have added 2 test annotations, right? Like I could have put all of it in one test annotation, right? Is it up to me?
Yes. So if you put it's, remember, it is, um I would say, um you make the choice, right? But then how efficient you want to be is up to you, right? So when you see, when you see your coworkers test and they see like they're modularizing, they're basically putting different annotation for their test. um the idea here is that you want to keep only test related stuff here under test. Anything else that falls under, let's say, happens before or after, you can keep them separately. The other thing you need to do is that how many things are common. For example, this test, this much maybe not common, but maybe for the next test, at least opening the browser, at least going to the URL is common, right?
Mhm.
So then I can keep it before. I don't have to repeat this. I don't have to like basically copy this and paste it here, right? Because this will run once before the test, right? And if you do before method here, so let's say you have some steps that runs for all of the tests, and those
Okay.
step you can put it in before method. That means before running your test right here, this is almost, this is a method right here. So before you run your whole test, it will run this too. So you're not repeating these lines. It will, um, it will basically run it for you for before all of this method, and you don't have to go into, let's say, 200 test case, right? You don't have to go to 200 test case and just add these two line again, right after this. So line number one, line number two, you don't have to add it because it's already doing it for you automatically. So it's easier to maintain, let's say. um Give me 1 second, I just have to reply to this text. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that. All right, I'm back. So what we can do, there's two ways we can help today, right? One would be going to your machine directly, and see what's the problem that you're facing, and then go from there. So so who wants to go first? Assuming that you guys don't have any more questions. The other thing is that what I can clarify here is for the next class, right? We still have to go into tools such as GitHub version control. That will kind of complete half of the other half, right? But we will also do the final framework. So far, you guys seen two frameworks, right? Um, Let me just give you guys a little bit idea, since majority of you guys are here today, so that's fine. Two frameworks you guys completed. The last one is the one. The last one is the winner at this point, because I am 100% sure you'll enjoy doing the last one, and you'll probably like the last one, and I hope that you guys get a job on the last framework, which is a BDD framework. This is something that I believe 2013, it was a rare thing to work with. 2013 was the year, and companies really embraced it because it was so helpful for many companies out there, that now BDD is a standard thing. You'll see that anybody, if you ever mention the word Cucumber in an interview, you will hear at least 5 questions on that, right? If you ever mention BDD, you will have 5 or 6 questions on that. If you say TestNg, the only question they may just ask annotation. Tell me about, the difference between JUnit and TestNg annotation, or tell me about some of the annotations, or tell me about the order of TestNg annotation, and that's it. So that's the thing, the way that they can ask question, it kind of brings people's understanding, and the company has been using Cucumber for quite some time, and my full intention is to use all my energy toward this framework, the last one, because that's what you'll be using at work, most likely. If you do happen to use TestNg, I promise you I will privately give you 2 weeks or at least a week or two worth of time before you join a company, so you can still feel confident. All right. So with that said, let's just go ahead and dive in. Who wants to go first?
My one, please.
Okay. So I'm going to send you a request. Go ahead and accept that. All right. And then for those that are here, like I said, everybody has a unique problem, and, try to learn from it. That's the only advice that I can give you. But you may feel bored at some point because that's not your problem. Your problem is something else. But any problem that people face, definitely something to pay attention and learn, because you may end up facing the same problem. All right. So right off the bat is red, right? Anytime you see red in Java code, that means you made the mistakes, right? Somewhere. So if you go down all the way and find me the red line, that's the first thing we want to do, right? All right. Red line number 77, what's happening? Tell me what it is that you're trying to do here.
Spelling mistake.
Okay, so somebody already helping you saying spelling mistake.
Public void shouldn't be on the same line.
Good. So 2 people already gave you answers. So let's fix that first. That's not what they said, right? So the first thing is they said spelling mistake. So after test, how do you spell after test? And you don't have to spell, you can just, copy that and go from there. And you don't keep them both in the same line, right? Because after test is not the same kind.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that you have public void, still red is because you have incomplete line. When you say public void, that means you want to create a method that doesn't have a return. You cannot simply just put anything. You have to have some sort of understanding, right?
Yes.
So go ahead and remove the parentheses, and let's not guess around, because that's not going to help you. Now, if you have anywhere else, did you apply before test somewhere else before or no?
Yes, I test that before that is working. Then when I use the after test, is mess up my code. That's why I delete, and I only use for test.
Okay, so line number 16. I want you to take a careful look and see the structure of that code and the syntax of that code, and tell me what you need to do on the last line where you're making the new annotation. Line number 16.
Line number 16, yes. Line number 16, public void create driver. So I can put here
No, like that's not my question. Here's the deal. Line number 16, right? You have public void. That means you're saying this is public and can be accessed from anywhere. Void means no return. And then create driver is just a name of that method that you created, right?
Yes.
And that name could be anything, or this has to be create driver?
This has to be create driver.
Why?
Otherwise, I cannot. I think I cannot get the URL. That's why I put the. Oh no. So I create driver before in the system. Sorry.
No. So this is okay. So you have like a wrong understanding of this, right? This is a function that you're creating. Line number 16, where public void. create driver is the name that you gave. Just like line number 22, verify that user can register. That's the name that you gave. You can say anything at all. Like line number 16, you can say, let me just go ahead, create driver. Instead of saying create driver, I can just say create browser, whatever I want, right?
Oh, I can put any name. Is that correct?
Yes. So that's one. The second thing is that when you come here and you want to add something, but then you don't want to give it a name. That's the problem, right? So after test, typically what we do, and I'm going to give it a relative name. So if you have to remove driver, right? If you have to delete or quit the driver that you open, what name can you give to the method? Let's say you're creating a function. You know what function means?
Yes.
Does it mean?
Is function means is activities in here.
Function is something that does very specific thing. You ask, it has a very specific task. A function basically does something for you. So now I want you to create a function name, only the name that will close the browser. So don't you want to say close or maybe tear down or something like that? So the name, I'm coming up with a name, right?
Okay.
And let's say this is the name. Because it's a function, it has to be like this. And again, in Java, we don't call function. This is a method, right?
Yes.
And then, and it's still red because let me see, remove annotation is not allowed here, is because why? Because you are putting inside of another annotation. Okay. And let me go in there, right there. Oh, okay, let me see. Is this an annotation? Yeah, this is annotation started from here. Okay, let me just see. You probably messed up the, so this is your main. This is where you got nothing in it. So this is empty.
Yeah, I delete.
Empty, right? So there's nothing for, I don't know. And then you got two of these. That means you're cutting it off right here. Everything else you're saying doesn't matter, right? Inside of this class, right? This is, you're saying my class starts here and ends here. That's what you're saying. So now if you remove that and you go in there all the way, and I added on already. So now I can say that, okay, this one has opening and it
This one
needs
is
to have an ending also, and that's it. And this is right now probably, okay, let me see if it's before. Yeah, so one here and that one should be, so this is one here, that's good. And this is outside of the other one. So now close browser, we can say if your driver, and the driver needs to be exposed because each functions needs to have a way to know what driver means, right?
Yes.
So if I want to create the driver, for example, like this line, I want to put it somewhere else. And let's say I will copy this. And actually, like, let's, is it Mac? You have a Mac, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So now notice how this is red.
Yeah, yesterday was the same thing. That when I put the before test, the symptom is that the driver is red.
Exactly. So now this is something that I covered in class. I can tell you this much. And I explained because specifically because I know that you guys will have this issue. The reason why is this is red is because this driver has no meaning. It's inside of a method. When we creating a driver right here, line number 17. Do you agree? This is where we create, right?
Yes.
This is where we're saying driver means new
New
Chrome driver, right? That's it. Now this guy is inside of a, let's say, container. This guy's inside of a hole.
curly bracket. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now this hole cannot have access to this one, this hole. But what if I put it outside of the hole, and these two are separate hole, right? If I
Yes.
put it outside of the hole, then the water can flow on to all of the holes, right?
Yes.
Think about like water, like think about multiple holes. Each one is a hole like this one, all right? Starts from here and ends at here. So if I take this outside, maybe that way it will be accessible by everywhere. So I'll take this and I will go ahead and put it outside. So I defined it outside. Now it's no longer upset. is because outside I'm saying I will, this is called instance variable in Java, right? I'm telling that WebDriver, I will have a variable with a WebDriver. I didn't decide what the value should be. I didn't decide what I will do with it. But for now, just know that there will be a driver that may have some value later. Line number 17, I added that value. I didn't have to define it again because I already defined it in line number 13.
Yes.
And now, as long as my line number 13 runs, it's everything else will be good. This will run because this is part of the whole class in the, and the code will run in order. So that means this one will run,
Yeah,
definitely
here
run
I
before
did a
all of this.
mistake. As like you, when you did the WebDriver and driver, I did a mistake over there.
Mhm.
And equal to new Chrome driver. That's why my mistake. I understand right now.
So
Yes,
now
sir.
then, now let's say after test, you want to go ahead and close the browser. So all you got to do is driver.close. What is the difference between driver.close and driver.quit? Anybody?
One, yeah, driver dot close. He can close for only this system, and quit for everything close.
Quit will quit the driver. So if the driver opens 10's browser, then all 10 will be closed because it just
Yeah.
killed the driver.
Yes.
Driver.close will kill the current browser. Okay,
Current
so
browser, yeah.
yeah, so it will kill all of the browsers. So it will kill all the open browsers, and this one will kill only the current focused current browser.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that solved your issue. Okay, so if you run it, it should be fine. You can play around with changing the tag to something else. I keep calling it tag, but this is annotation. In the reason why I'm calling tag is because in Cucumber we call them tag, and
Oh,
so we'll come to that at some point. But anyway, this solves your problem. And anybody else?
thank you, teacher.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Mhm. You too. All right, so let's move on to the next person. If you can stop sharing. Oh, there you go. And who's the next person that has very similar or maybe other issues?
Teacher, hello.
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah, I have one question. I may sound stupid. I want to know how to find a CSS selector and XPath. I can go until inspect, and
Mhm.
I see the page, but I don't know which line. I need like so many things. I get confused.
Okay, that's fine. So this is called developer tool, right? When you do inspect in Chrome driver, this developer tool is available to you by default in Chrome, but for Safari, you need to enable that. So you need to go into the setting and change that. Otherwise, you'll not see it. Now, how do you get CSS selector? So for example, these things are elements. So if I click on home and I see this and I want to get a CSS selector, there is more than one way. For now, I'll tell you the easiest way. The easiest way you get it, right click, copy, and then copy selector. That's your CSS selector. You can also test it by doing Control F or Command F if you're a Mac user. Okay. And then you paste it right here. And then you keep pressing enter and you'll see it just highlights it. It highlights the code, it highlights the element, and also it will tell you 1 of 1. If it doesn't show 1 of 1, it will not work. Okay, so if you ever want to automate something and you are selecting an element or you're using a locator, and you can test it here first to make sure that the locator is 1 of 1. Otherwise you will see it doesn't work. And then
Okay, thank you.
XPath is very similar copy, and then you have yourself an XPath. And you can also test your XPath right here. This is how the XPath looks like. And again, 1 of 1, if it does say 2, or if it says something else, like for example, look, now it doesn't have it. But if it says, like for example, okay, I'm gonna say LI maybe. L is capital, no. So something else, maybe this guy right here, I'll take it and I'll show you the example. Paste it here. It's 1 of 1. Okay, this is unique. I gotta find something that is not unique. So maybe this class name, because these are all menu type. So okay. So I'm gonna make that as a CSS selector. You see how it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what Selenium does, when you have something like this 4 or 5, that means 5 different elements with the same class name, Selenium will come here and be total confused. It's like you sent a person to, let's say, Manhattan and find a building, and that person will be like, oh, building is everywhere. And now as a person, he can choose a building and say, okay, fine, maybe she meant this, and done. But your code is not going to make that decision for you, right? For a good reason. It doesn't make assumptions. It's not AI to make any sort of assumptions here. So it will say, oh, too many elements, ambiguous request, or ambiguous elements, or too many elements with this name. Sometime, if you're lucky, you'll get that kind of message. Other time it will say that, other time it will just work with the first one. Just instead of EC4 of 5, it will probably work on the first one and just continue. So you have to be careful on getting that locator. Make sure it's 1 of 1 whenever you use it. All right. That
Okay, thank you.
probably helped. And all right, so who's next? Who has the same issue with homework? Nobody else have issues. Everybody's good. So let me see some of.
I
Let's see.
have issues. Can I share my screen?
1 second. Seems like everybody's good. Then why we did this? All right, let's go. All right, red. Anytime you see red, you know that something that you probably need to fix on your side.
Yeah, but before I can run, at least I can go to my web page.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened. It's
So don't run it. I can tell you what's the problem, right? Line number 20. Can you tell me what did you do wrong based on the last conversation, like a few minutes ago?
Like you told us like put a WebDriver over there.
Mm-hmm. But what did you do in line number 20 that you shouldn't do?
I have to put the slice.
No. So on line number 11, you said WebDriver is driver,
Yeah.
which driver is the variable name, but I don't have the value yet. I'll give you later. In line number 20, you said here is the value for driver, but do you have to define that again? That's the question. Do you have to say, okay, here, you already defined the type, right? Data type, which is in line number 11, you said it's a WebDriver.
Yeah.
Here, you are doing it again. So if you remove the WebDriver from line number 20, it should fix most of your problem. No. Okay, go 1 second. So this is your word, right? Let me see if I have access. Okay, I don't have access on your machine. Okay, so just remove the word WebDriver from line number 20.
So I can give you access.
It's fine. It's fine. Let's try to remove the word WebDriver. 20. The word WebDriver, right? Literally the first word on your line number 20 that you can. So this one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that's it. You see the color changed.
Yeah.
And that's it. So the reason why, okay, and this is red. If this is red, then nothing else will run. This is a compile language, Java, right? If you upset anything else, anywhere else, it doesn't matter where, it will give you an error saying something is problem. There is a problem somewhere. So if this is red, you need to fix this first. Okay. And let's see what's the problem. And okay, so you started here. Let's see the closing.
No, this is the second one.
Yeah, there is no closing. You have a start, but there is no close, right? And okay, that's, I don't know if you deleted that before. So now that your code is fine, line number 11, you have a driver, you defined it, and you said, I'm going to provide a value later. Line number 20, you provided the value, which is Chrome driver. Driver means Chrome driver. That's what you told them. And then you're going to this URL, And then after that, you're just closing it and done. And then you have a test, another test, just it's nothing, it's just a comment that it'll
Okay.
print. So if you run it, it'll probably run. So if you try to run it now, it'll run it.
Okay.
And then you can probably start to add more after this.
Nice one.
Okay, cool.
Thank
All
you.
right. But you understood, right? I just, the
Yeah.
reason why I'm going to the length we're explaining, I can just go and fix the code, but I'm trying to explain so that way somebody learns, at least somebody from here learns
Yeah.
what's the mistake that you made. All right, cool. Let me go ahead and work with somebody else. So who's next with an issue?
I can go next.
Okay, so let's do it. Let me send you a request. All right, so it's not red, which is good. If you want to tell me what it is that you're having problem.
Actually, I'm trying to copy from my homework too, which I did last class. So I'm trying to add it to my TestNg, and then guess what? It's not running. It keeps giving me error.
Okay, so let's look at it. So the first thing you did driver this. Okay, it's fine. You made the same exact mistake. And yeah,
Did I?
yeah, you did. We just went over this like a second ago, right here.
For real? Yeah. Okay.
And then it should be good now. And
It's a
then
driver, right? What was the mistake then? It was driver, so I put the driver.
so here again, I don't know if you paid attention the last 5 minutes. Here is the deal, right? Line number 12, you're saying I want to name something.
Right.
I don't know what is that something, right? That's what you're saying here in line number 12. And then it will be a web driver. You're saying that the type of data, it will be a web driver, and driver is the name that I'm giving, right? So this could be anything if you want to. Then
Right.
later, line number 10, you're saying, okay, driver means something to me, which is Chrome driver.
Right.
But do you have to define it again, what that type is? Because you don't have to, you already did it
Exactly.
outside.
It should be a web driver, right? Isn't it?
No, but
Oh,
you're keep
sorry.
interrupting. This is the thing, right? You already defined it, right? So what you just said is like, okay, it should be a web driver, right? That's exactly what I'm trying to prevent you to do, right? So it's not because you already defined it. Like if you named already a cat, okay, so this is your cat, and you don't have to rename it again every time you call your cat and say, hey, like let's say you want to pet the cat or whatever. Um, you must have a dog or cat, whatever is your pet name. You don't have, do you want to give it a name all the time, or do you want to give it a name the first time you see it? And that's the thing. You already gave it a name with a type, what type of that is. If you put it here before test, what it does, it runs before the test. That means if you have more tests, it'll run it once before. And now you are defining it here. The reason why we put it outside, because we want this name to be accessed by everybody else. All the remaining annotation, right?
Yeah.
And so if you, that's why we exposed it, we put it outside. So anytime, like let's say, for example, this is your URL. For some reason, I don't want this URL to be here. I'm gonna do is this Mac or Windows? Okay, Windows.
Windows.
So okay, Control X, and it's gone, right? And I'll come back to this later, and I'll put it outside, and I'll say something like this: string base URL is equal to. Oh, okay.
Limited. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
It copied
Just do
twice.
Control Yeah, Control Z, it should probably, okay. Okay, that's good. Now you doing this, right? So now you defined it outside. What I can do now, I can call this name anywhere I want. So now instead of like, let's say line number 20, I can say, okay, I no longer need this because I already gave it a type right here. So all I have to do is call it directly. And now let's say for any reason you want to call somewhere else because it's outside of this. I can call it here too. I can call the base URL. So I can say print the base URL. So system dot out dot print ln, and then I can say base. So you see how it's automatically making it available to me because it knows, kind of try to make a guess. So now it will print the base URL as soon as the test is running. And you can probably say something like this, more meaningful. Test is running on URL something. So now it will pretty much say which URL you're running the test because the URL is right here. And now you can call it here. You can call it here, or you can call it anywhere because that is outside of the bucket, right? This is the bigger bucket and this is the smaller bucket. As soon as you put it in smaller bucket, outside bigger bucket do not have access. Okay. But if you put it outside bucket, you can actually call them to the smaller inside bucket. That's what we had to do in line number 12, line number 13 as an example just now.
All right.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then because I already defined here, every time I call this, do I have to say, okay, it's a string? No, because it's already done. Otherwise it defeats the purpose, right? Otherwise I would copy paste everywhere that I need.
Okay.
Yep. So that should solve your problem. If you run it, it should be good. And
Can I
then,
just run it now?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
And this will probably run both of the tests. All right. So you got 2 tests and all run fine. Okay, cool. That's great. This is the thing what I need, Tina, from some of you guys, not just you, is that yes, the test is working and it's working fine. I want you to go line by line and make sense out of it. If it doesn't make sense to you, just kind of do some investigation. Why is it working this way? Why is it working that way? Ask that why question for now, because the way that I am kind of going over things and teaching you guys, it's like with the assumption that you guys will do that kind of investigation. Because if I had to go and explain every single smaller steps, that will take us years to finish, right? So that's why we have to jump right onto that script. Otherwise I could have said, okay, let's first learn about how to create a instant variable, and then some of the things that we have to learn in Java, we're going to be learning as we go, as we automate. So that's why you need to spend time. The more tests you will write, the more you will get used to, and the more you will understand that this is something that I need to do, you know. And these smaller mistake that you guys are making, it's okay, you're making that mistake now, but when you have, let's say, you wrote 5, 6, 7, or 8 test cases, you'll be fine. You will probably not make those mistakes again. But if you don't do that, if you, let's say, don't practice and do the hands-on work, then these mistakes, you will forget that you made those mistakes, and later you will make the same mistake again, and you will say, oh, what it is not working, you know. So notice how much time you guys are using. For example, when you have a problem and you spend 3 hours, 4 hours, and it's not working, right? And you tried every possible things. In the process of trying those every other possible solution, you're learning something new. But this struggle will teach you guys something. And as a coder, as somebody with developing experience and experience with automation, one thing is for sure: if you do not practice, if you do not face these problems yourself, you will not learn it. And that's my word to you guys, right? So make sure, even if you feel like, oh, I'm not learning it, even if you feel like it's going to take me years, that's fine. Everybody has to start somewhere, and that somewhere is now, right? And then once you guys make it, and we go out there, look for jobs again, some of you guys will probably look for less code heavy job, and some of you guys will be comfortable taking code heavy job. But either way, you will be able to make progress in your career. The only thing is, if you didn't learn coding, then when you join a company, you will always be under, let's say, some sort of a situation where maybe they will let you go after 6 months because they need somebody with some sort of experience of in coding and things like that. You wouldn't know where to start. And there are many people comes to me who's working for 5, 6, 7 years. And I had a recent call. Somebody called me after seeing our ads and saying, hey, I would like to learn automation. I'm working in the city for the last 5 years, and I don't know how to automate. And then I gave him an advice, and I said, look, if you join my class, you're going to lose your mind, because I don't take somebody who is already working, and you may feel like they're, going slow. So I would recommend you try somewhere else, or maybe you want to do self-taught by going into other sources like Udemy. um I don't want to put him in the same class, and now he's going fast and everybody's slow. So that's why, like I said, it's even, I guess that's as an example, somebody working actually for 5 years and didn't have to code for the last 5 years. And that's the situation, right? When you join a company, they will probably make you do one thing and one thing only daily basis, right? So if you get lucky and you get to do everything, a little bit of everything, then that's great. You're adding more skills to yourself. But sometime you'll be ending up doing just one thing. But this is where you're learning these things, this automation. One day your manager will come and say, hey, maybe we can do something better. And you'll say, yes, I can help you build the automation tool, or I can write maybe few automation tests and let me know if this is something that you want. And this recommendation will probably put you in charge of that team, or at least leading the automation effort. And at some point, even if maybe you overpromised, like, okay, I'm going to do this, and now you're facing so many problems, but you still get through it, that's when you pretty much become a automation engineer. You will learn it by doing it at this point. But if you never ever seen such thing, you're going to see the code and you're going to avoid it. You're going to say, oh, no, that's something that I haven't used it in my previous job, so I'm not going to do it here. And so that's one thing. But some of you guys will, when you join a company, you will have the 2 or 3 months. They will give you access to the code, and you will have, initially you will have running options. They will probably show you how to run tests, and you'll run. I would recommend run each test at a time, see which line does what, and just prepare yourself, because at some point you will have to write 1 or 2 lines. The good thing here is that because we don't repeat the code, we don't basically try to do the same code again and again. You'll be able to reuse a lot of the code. So if you have to, like, let's say, you have to click, maybe you have to go to a browser and you have to, for example, clicking on this element. Do you have to rewrite this? No, you just copy and paste that to your test, and that's it. So you will see that there is similar test cases. You look at the test case and see how they did it, and then you'd be able to leverage or salvage some of that code that they written already. And that's the beauty of being able to reuse code. And so you don't have to do everything from scratch. With that said, who's next? Sorry, when I go on a conversation, it just goes long and long, but let's get through the problems first. Who wants to go next? Nobody has problems. Fatima, you're good? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I thought maybe I went on mute and talking all this time to myself. Okay, so who's going next? First of all, maybe let's look at some of more
Me,
problems.
I've been talking. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I've been
So,
talking by myself. Sorry, it's in the laptop. I'm like,
okay. So I was like, oh, maybe Fatima is mad at me because I didn't choose you first.
oh my God. The thing. Okay, let's not talk about that.
All right, let's start. Let's see
Okay.
what problems you're facing. You shouldn't face any problem. I have high expectation.
Oh my goodness. Then you're going to get mad now. My code is a big goopy mess because I tried inheritance and I tried everything. Look at that.
Mhm. Okay. So one thing as a recommendation is whenever you do code, like
Mhm.
sometimes you may feel like, okay, maybe I'm gonna do the two things at a time and I'll be done. Never try to do that. Always do one thing at a time. Like, okay, I want to fix this problem and that's it. That's all I want to do, and then move on, and then go into the next thing. Yes, this is something that I faced myself at work. Sometimes I'm looking at issues, I go through the code and I see problems and I want to fix, and then I see other problems I want to fix. And now I fix maybe 50 different issues and I'm running the entire test, and now there are some failures, right?
Mhm.
I could have avoided that if I did one at a time or two at a time or three at a time. So smaller is better. So just think about that. All right, so let's look at your code real quick. I see a few things here and there. Line number 45. Did
Yeah.
we ever have a tag or a annotation
She
name
wrote
test1?
she wrote on a 21, she wrote web drive again.
Yeah, so this is not necessary, because again, I don't know what you're trying to do, because this is probably not necessary here.
Mhm.
Whenever you use annotation, at least TestNg, and I'm talking only about TestNg, is that when you do test and it shows up something like this, that means you did it right. And once that is done, each annotation expects right at top of the method, right? So this is how you create a method, right? And you don't do static unless you have to. Static has a meaning, right? And we'll talk about that. So if you do public void for now and you just want no returns, you simply want that to execute.
Mhm.
So public void, and then you give it a name, like verify something. So let's say verify, and I'll let you name this. Something will be something later, right? So you can change this to whatever you want. And this is your start, and then this is your ending of that, but this one doesn't have an ending. Let me see. 1 second, and then let me go right here. Fix that line. All right. So you have before method, which is empty. You have test. The first test is empty with the name test1. You have the second test, verify something, is also it does have something in it right here. So this is where it started, and it needs to have an ending. So the ending is maybe right here. And this guy belongs to this one, right?
Mhm.
And this guy has no partner, right? So beginning, ending. This is where it started, this is where it ended. So everything you have to look when you are writing your code. So let's see, public void static after method. So let's remove the static and just know the keyword that you need to use after method. You just gave it a name, so that's fine. And this is just printing something, so start end, which is good. Then you have another end, an extra end for, I don't know why, so I'm going to remove that. And then you have after suite that you adding it, still static, so you'll remove that one. And notice how the driver is now fine. And then you're missing a closing somewhere here, because how do I know that? Is because if you go up, this is the beginning, right? If I click on that, and it'll highlight the ending of that. So this is the ending. So this becomes an extra. So I'm going to remove that. And then, so somewhere else is the problem at this point, right? So, and right here, when you create a method, you don't put a space between the parentheses and the method, because Okay, and then we have the static for some reason, so we remove that. But then this is inside of another method for some reason, right? So I don't know why we did this.
No, the thing is there are two tests. That the other thing I was confused about. Do I do one test, like in one method I do two tests, or I divide it in test 1 and test 2?
You don't divide. So let's say test 1 is something, and then test 2 is
Verifying the
something
page,
else.
and test 2 is verifying the pre-filled names.
Okay, so then the pre-filled name is test 1. You have to name it appropriately. So let's say on this case, let's remove the static again. And we'll talk about the static in a second. 1 second. So here you say verify page
Location.
page is pre-filled or something, whatever, on the second page, right? So then you can write your code here to do that. And then this is like verifying if you're on the next page or whatever. Right? So in reality, we don't break it down that much. We try to go in one pass, so we don't have to like do too many. Verify we land or user lands on second page. So the naming is the way that you want to do it. How do you come up with a better name? It's the intention. What is the goal, right? By the way, this is probably an extra for no reason, right?
Yeah.
Because this is a start, this is an end, and in between everything is code that will run. And so when you name something, and this is for everybody to hear, if you're naming something, a variable name, a class name, a method name, in this case, a method, this is like a method. So when you name something, you want to make it in a way that is readable and is easy to understand, and it is relevant. It is related to what the code is about, right? If this code is to check if a user land in the second page and we're verifying that, then this is what we write. So relative name, we're doing camel casing. The first letter of the word is lowercase, and every other word will have the first character uppercase. That's the camel casing that we do. Now, my question to you is that 50, you're just verifying that you're on the second page. How do you even get to this page with your code? Where is the code that get to that page?
It's on line
Before-
number 25, 26, and 27. It's in the before suite.
Okay. So before suite, why there is a space? That's one thing, right? Because you need to make sure. So by the way, this is no longer red. Everything else is red that you need to fix. This test still not going to run. Best practices, why basically like before suite is not part of the test, but at least getting up to here, the first page, maybe all of the tests, you put things that are common between other tests here, right? Because you want to run once and that's it.
That's it.
So now these things probably belong to the test because it's still you're going through the page that you're dealing with. The page that you're dealing with should be part of the test, right? You can put it here, it'll probably work as long as you don't have any other test, but let's see 1 second. So first of all, you have before suite, it will run first, of course, right? Because of the order in which it runs. The second one is before class, which runs right after before suite. So it will run this also. The third one is before method. This is going to run basically before each one of these guys, right? Because it's method. These are still a method, right?
Yeah, that one I was confused, so I don't know how to put it.
So here it's nothing in it. So even if it runs, it does really nothing. Then you have the test, actual test, where the first test has nothing in it, but the second one, you're just verifying that you are in the second page or not. And then you have 55 and 54. This is just printing out something, just printing out this word, and that's it. So, and then after suite, which happens only once after running all of the tests, to close a single browser. So if you happen to open multiple, then it will only close one. but in your case, you're only opening a single browser to begin with, so you should be fine. If you go in here, everything is red. Everything looks out of place. So on your thing, if you do Control, Command, and L, it should probably fix it. So I'm gonna, oh, sorry, I'm gonna right click, Control A. Okay, and then right click in here. It will say something like format or something. Let's see. The shortcut for this is basically the way I do it is Control Command L, and it should fix your code to make it look better format. So since you already have a red, it's probably not going to do this. And the other thing is that you probably copied this from another class or something, because these
The
things
homework. Yeah. The
yeah,
before
yeah,
homework.
yeah, this doesn't belong here. Anytime you see issues in your import, just go ahead and delete them, because they will automatically appear once you yeah, once you see something red, you hover over and you will be able to get the import once again. Anytime you see import, don't even bother typing, just get rid of them altogether. Then you have this where you got dependencies and you got nothing else in between. Dependencies should be inside of a project tag. Your dependency tag inside is inside of dependencies, but dependencies should be inside of project. So somehow you deleted something. So if you do Control C here and you go at the end, and let's do this. Closing is that you starts like this. It automatically completed before I even asked for it. Okay. Okay, so that fixes your pom.xml. Your backup is also fixed. Your first is also fixed. Something else is red in your thing, and this could be it, right? So here, so remember again, in Java, anything is upset within the whole project file, it will not allow you to run your test. So extends, you're missing something. Either you extend or either you don't extend. Test name should not be just lowercase test, it should be uppercase. And now it will probably ask you to fix this thing right here. You got to refactor that and rename. Class name is never gonna be lowercase. Tell me why. And
Because it's the what was it? It's the naming convention.
it's the, yeah, it's basically Java's telling you like, okay, this is how I want it. You know, if you're gonna walk into somebody's house, you cannot tell them, I'm not gonna open my shoes to get inside your house, because that's their rule. And so now if you want to use Java and they're saying this is exactly how it is, this is how I want it, that's it, you can't really argue about it, because you're actually going into their house, or in this case, you're using Java. So if you need to use Java, you have to follow the convention, or at least the rules of thumb in this case. Okay. Now it's still red, right? So I go into this, I fixed few things already. Let's see what else is red. It says verify. What are you verifying? See, verify should come from somewhere. So why is it red? So when you say verify, where did this verify coming from? It's probably coming from inheritance, right? You're inheriting from somewhere. Okay. So now let me go ahead and put it back. So we have to fix that first. Where do you inherit that verify from?
I think
You're getting it from here, or any of this class, the backup. Let's see. Okay, so this is where you have a public void, verify page. Okay. And then this is the one you're trying to use. Okay. So backup is the class that you need to inherit here. Okay. Okay, so
this is so silly. It's just because I took away the file, it got upset.
oh yeah, it's it
Less than
will. And then import static method. Okay, cannot resolve method in test. So if I do import, probably will work. Importing from backup, let's see. First TestNg backup verify blah blah. Somewhere here you just have to, okay, TestNg test. methods is verified, or it is coming from TestNg. Which class is this? Okay, 1 second. Okay, this is where it's coming from. Okay, that's good. So if you insert this, I think method is this method you're trying to call, right? It shouldn't be upset anymore. Let's see, how do we call it? It will probably put it. Okay, so you're trying to import this here and still not good. You need to say, you need to basically create an instance of this, right? So I can do it outside, I can do it inside. Let me do it outside first. Okay. And I can say back up is equal to B is equal to new backup. All right. Now, if I just say something like this, B dot verify, and it's good to go. And then why is this parameter? Okay, create type parameter. I don't need to do, I have to do this. Okay, maybe I gotta put it inside, and it's got. Okay, B is verified. Okay, no, it had to be outside. Okay. Control C. Control Z. Okay. Did I have the spelling correct? Okay, up is not correct. Okay, nobody's fixing my mistake. Okay. All right. Oh, now I'm making another one. Okay. All right. So anytime you extend, you have to basically grab the create the object, basically, right? You're from this class, you're creating the object, and then from that object, you're calling whatever that you want to use. So like B should be this. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be B. I just put it because I want to make my life easy. And anything coming from that B class will be called like this. Okay. And then we still have some more issues, which is, in this case, you have a start, you have a start. Where is the closing for this and where is the closing for this? So if I click on this, okay, I click on that and it just should highlight the closing. It doesn't highlight it, so it's missing closing. So if I click on this, it is highlighting this. That means that belongs to this one. Now this guy is alone, right? Where is the partner? If you have an opening, you have to have a closing. This is the main class and it should wrap everything inside of it. Even the main, sorry, this is the class name. It should wrap everything inside. Therefore, it should be right here on this line. How do you know what should be inside? Again, the indentation tells you that this, everything that starts here is inside of this and that. And then what is inside inside of this, everything else, right? And again, I need to put this down because Control X. Now it's gonna be fine. I think my initial one was okay. And well, okay, we are still upset. Cannot resolve, blah, blah. Okay, create method filing in backup. No, we already have that. Now verify. So let me just go ahead and look at the method names, because B dot should give me all the methods that you have is in there, right? So verify, maybe verify start with VRI now. First TestNg backup. Okay, that's the class. All right, inheritance, 1 second. What we doing wrong here?
If I type it, no, it's not coming.
Yeah. Definitely we did something wrong. 1 second. So subclass and superclass. So you need to have first. Okay, so public void. Okay, that's fine. And then once you do the vehicle extends, we already did the, okay, so once you do the, okay, that's fine. Okay, we did that. Create this. Okay, that should be. Okay, this is inside, which is fine. 1 second. So this is inside. We did this already, which is fine. And then okay, everything we did, it's good. So I don't know what's the deal. And then we have to, okay, so public void. I want to make sure that everything is in backup is kind of correct. So public void, and then we having some issues here, right? Notice these things right here, verify. This is a method, right? If you have a space, then these two are separate entity, right? Separate things. We can't do that. There, you need to know where you put space and where you don't put space, right? So when you have a method name, or when you have something that you are you're trying to create it and you have a parenthesis, it should belong to that name. So even for this one, you have a space. Single space only apply when it comes about other things, right? But this, in this case, this is essential. You need this. You must have it, right? It has to be together. All right, let's see now. So notice how these are different color now is because probably it's being used. B, okay, so B is new. We did that fine. Okay, that's good. Let me get rid of this line. Okay, so if I do this V dot something. Okay.
Should I type?
No, 1 second. There's must be other issues. We fixed a lot of issues so far, right? And let me just go ahead and so I would say, just to save for the interest of time, don't worry about the inheritance part because I'm gonna have to go over again. I know that, and I'm kind of like waiting for us to touch the next framework where I'm gonna do more inheritance and explain a little bit better. So try to stay away from inheritance for the time being.
Okay.
For this one, and just at least because one thing at a time. Remember, if you try to do everything at the same time, you will get confused, and also you'll probably not do the right thing. So I would say verify this the way that you have been separately.
Okay. Do like a flat file.
Yeah. So for now, just do the flat file. All we want is that TestNg is the main objective here. So be able to run TestNg test. And then once we go into the next framework, we will then spend more time on inheritance and OOP. And OOP will probably help you with having reusable code, but also GitHub is another topic. So it's going to be many more topics. So that's why I kind of tell you guys to, even this is basic, try to keep up because we're going to learn a lot more. And then hopefully we'll finish in the next 3, 4, 5 classes. And yeah, at least 3, 4 classes. And then you guys have to focus on the other stuff, other materials before we can say you guys are ready. All right, cool. So your problem is solved. Everything was red. Now it's no longer red. And if you run it, it should be running. You're welcome. All right, next is who's next? Anybody else?
I think everyone is exhausted after seeing my phone.
Oh yeah, you had a big mess. Marish, you're good?
Can I show something?
Yeah. Go ahead. 1 second. Yeah.
I have a question about the John. Why it's red?
This is not red. So if you notice, and this is something that I haven't taught you guys yet, if you click on it, if you actually click on it, you'll see the red goes away. No, if you just tap on it, double click on it, don't run it, double click on that thing. You see how another red came in, and double tap. So, okay. So you see how the red thing came out? That is called
Yeah.
debugging, right? This is one way. If your test is running fine, then it's fine. Debugging is basically when you want to stop your test exactly where it fails, so you can see physically the code that it fails and also the application where it fails, right?
Yeah.
So this IDE gives you the ability to debug. You'll see there's a bug, like green bug somewhere up here. And if you do the debug, you'll see like if there's a test fail, it'll hang, it'll stop. It'll stop and say, hey, look at the screens. Instead of putting a sleep, we don't put sleep when we debug. So we haven't gone there yet. We'll give you guys a way to troubleshoot your code and be able to find issues and fix yourself. Right now, we're focusing on basics. Let's just keep on learning. And then at some point you'll be able to troubleshoot code, because this is probably the next thing. First, you have to learn it, then you can debug it. And that's something that we'll do soon. But if your test is running fine and no problem at all, then just, yeah, that's not a problem.
No, it's not, I think, running.
Okay, if it's not running, you gotta tell me the error message, right? That's the first thing you need to think about. Where is it failing and why is it failing, right? You need to investigate, and then you can try to think about a possible solution. So in this case, this is failing, right? So if you click on this, let me get access to your computer.
Okay.
All right, so after this, guys, if anybody else have any difficulty or anything for me to explain, I will be here. But if you don't, then we're gonna end the call. I don't want to have a lot of people waiting. But if you do have a problem, let me know. And anybody here that is finished and you think that you no longer need to be here, you can definitely drop. Okay, so if I click on this, okay, you didn't give me access. 1 second, I gotta ask you.
Yeah, I give you.
For her, can I say one thing?
Mhm.
So the notice closed, that one is no longer there. You know, the COVID pop-up thing
Okay, yeah,
that
yeah.
we face the same issue.
Okay,
So I think that
so yeah, so just remove line number 27 as yeah, as everybody has the same issue before.
I give you access, right?
I don't know, for some reason I didn't get it, but it's fine. Just go ahead and remove line number 27. Comment it out.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing is that, guys, when you are at work and you have some issues and you say, hey, can you help me? And you ask your coworker, for example, and say, hey, do you have 5 minutes or do you have 10 minutes? And they are nice enough to say, yeah, sure, why not? And then they sit down with you, and then basically you totally freeze and you're not able to move around. They will guide you like, okay, I want you to click this line number, go ahead and change this. You know what, give it a nice name, change the name of the variable to this and things like that, right? And you should be able to do that. And that's something that I'm preparing guys here. So whenever I'm telling you, okay, do this, is because maybe at some point at work, maybe you'll have to do this at work too, and you seek out for help. Majority of your help at work, when you join a company, at least 90% of the help that you will get is not from us, is from your coworker, because the coworker is not your boss, right? So you have to understand one thing. Coworker is somebody who and then somebody who you get along with, right? Who's gonna be somebody who's gonna help you, right? And who's gonna get you up to speed, and you will be able to do your work because that person kind of showed you what they usually do. Because if I tell you, okay, this is how you're going to write code, it may not be the right way, because the standard is different. I can create my own standard and somebody else can create their standard of writing code. And aside from code, it doesn't have to be code, right? If let's say you're doing manual testing, all you have to do, open up the website and check if things are the way that they said it is on the requirement, and you wrote the test cases. Some company, they may have a process where you have to follow on writing the scenario and then writing the test cases. Some company where they will not even ask you for none of these, right? Test case or even test scenario, they will just want to hear, if it pass or fail, right? So every company has different process and everything. Therefore, you will have to interact with your peers and coworker, and you have to reach out to them, set up a meeting and say, hey, I'm setting up a 20 minutes meeting between us, and this is just to do a knowledge transfer. I feel like I'm not too clear about this user story or this requirement that I was given for testing. I would really like it if you can help me with this. And now this coworker helped you to get started. Now you got stuck in the middle. Reach out to the other coworker and say, hey, I just got started with this user story and I'm blocked at this point. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Can you help me? And then now this person helped you unblock, right? And you move forward and now you got again stuck. Then you can still now ask another coworker. And before you know it, you've just finished your first task by communicating with people, and this is perfectly fine. It's not like they're doing your work, it's just you investigating and being able to do your own work. After the first one, I am sure you don't need help, right? Because you did all that yourself. And then if you do need help, you can still do the same thing and just say, hey, I'm so sorry, um I'm going to bother you a few more times, because usually the first couple of weeks I'm always asking nonsense questions. um you can talk to me like somebody who's just brand new, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about everything else, just go ahead and tell me about this. Or you can just say, first meeting, they're trying to help you with the knowledge transfer, and they're giving you knowledge transfer and say, okay, this is how things are, and this is how we will be writing tests. And you can just say, hey, is it okay if I record this? Because I think this is very, important. Can you record and send it to me? That would be great, right? So they can record. Two things happens. One is that you keep the record, and second is that when they record, they will try to be more precise on what they say, right? And lastly, when you go to work and you see this type of issue again, like, coworker is your first line of help, and just say, hey, I'm seeing this problem, but you don't go to the coworker right away because you seeing an issue. You have to understand what is basic and what is non-basic. If you go
Can
for
I
an
ask you a
issue.
question?
Mhm. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No worries.
I just had a question. It came into my mind, like, the people who working from home,
Mhm.
and how would we can, like, in the first time, like, especially when you're working from home, do you think it's like it's gonna be a more challenging to reach out the colleague or coworker, especially,
They're working from home.
yeah,
um
because when you
I
work
don't.
in the company, you
Mhm.
like, the first day you have a meeting, you know each other by face, so it's easy to reach out to the people,
Mhm.
but I'm just wondering, based on your, experience, is that a little challenging, working from home and the first day at work, reach out to the people and,
I don't think it's more on your favor, because it's not challenging. This is the thing. Like, if your coworker says something like, "Oh, have you done this?" and let's say this is something you must have done it, you can always say, "Oh, can you give me 1 second? Somebody's knocking at my door. I don't know why. Let me come back to this." Now, in the meantime, you do that, or you do some googling because you think that you should know whatever he's talking about. So you can just say, "Can you give me 1 second? I just got a quick call, and this is important. Let me call you back, or let's circle back to this in half an hour. Is it okay?" Something like that, right? So when you work from home, you do have that kind of opportunity to do that. But if you don't, if you're face to face and they give you something and they're right behind your shoulder, trust me, you will probably make a lot of mistakes. So you do have a lot of favors on your side.
Yeah,
um
yeah, like for the who work at home, like right now we getting some benefit from, like, everybody has a group or something like that. Before, when you are in person, sometimes some people are no response, but when you have like a lot of people on your groups, then anyone can respond to your message. Yeah. For the who work at homes, like anyone can be answer your message.
Right. So I guess the answer to that is it's not challenging at all. It is even easier. And there is a way to ask for help. If you ask for help, like, hey, can you help me? That is probably they're not gonna take it well. Like anybody, like if somebody keep on coming to you, Maurice, and they said, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? At some point, you're gonna say, oh my God, this person is always trying to get my
Right.
help, right? But if I come to you, Marsh, something like this, hey Marsh, do you have 30 minutes? I'm gonna set up a meeting with you. Like tomorrow. Is this are you busy? And you said, no, it's fine, totally fine. Then I set up a meeting with you, and then in the meeting, I just start off saying, hey, thank you so much for giving me the time. The purpose of this meeting is for me to learn a little bit more about this or that system. And I was just recently given a task, and I feel like you are the knowledgeable person to first start from. And so if you don't mind explaining this, and just keep in mind, if you want to explain this like I'm a 5 years old, don't worry about it, do it, I don't mind, right? And you start off like that. Think about the difference, right? In this case, two things happening. One thing is that you are setting up the meeting. He will think that he's doing that's part of his job, right? Because he's doing the meeting with you.
Right.
And he can mention that tomorrow and say, yesterday I met Marish and went over one of our tasks. Today I'll be doing this and that, right? So at least he will be able to use this as, okay, this time that he's spent, he's getting credit for. And also you will feel like it's not a favor. It's never a favor when your coworker asks you, when you get help from your coworker, it's never a favor. Don't feel like that, because when you start to work and contribute, and that is just less work for your coworker, because now you're able to do the work, right? So that is part of your work.
That sounds nice. Like, it's like a teamwork.
Yeah, but if you try to be like, oh, I think this person, like let's say Mavish found somebody who's really nice to her, and you feel like, oh, that's my friend, or somehow that person became friend, and you guys talk, and you continue to like, hey, can you help me? Or let's say Afrina is the friend, like, hey Afrina, I'm having this issue. Trust me, Afrina, in about 10th of the time, she's gonna say, oh my God, she's probably gonna talk to her husband or whatever boyfriend, like, oh my God, this person always bothered me at work, what she wants now. you know so it's better
Yep.
to have um all your questions, put it in single place, and then set up a meeting, and then say, hey, these are the few questions that I have, and which will help me continue to help on removing some of the load that you have. And I think you're the best person to work, maybe talk to. So here's an agenda, and then just go from there. Always create your agenda. Always have, before the meeting, always do your homework, I would say. Write things down. And this will only make you more and more efficient, and people will be surprised and like, wow, okay, this person is highly, at least highly organized. And as a QA, you should be organized. And trust me, over the years, when people have 6, 7, or 8 years of real experience, they become disorganized. And so when they see somebody like you coming in and doing everything right, they will definitely appreciate, and they will probably admire that also. But like I said, it's all about how you ask. If you want to ask for help, don't feel like you're asking for a favor. Just do it as part of the work, which is going to be, yeah. And you can also tell them, like, next meeting, you can say, okay, yesterday I had a meeting with David, and he was nice enough to help me with one of my issue. And today I'll be having another meeting with him. I think this is great, making some progress and this and that. So, but
I
again,
just have a
when
quick
you
question.
go ahead,
You
go ahead.
explained so well. Really
Mhm.
appreciate your time. Like on the day one, sometimes
Mhm.
the people do have an issue with the login system and like that type of issues. At the first day. Do in this profession, I don't know because I'm not familiar with the IT profession at all.
Mhm.
Do they have like a help support on the first day or the first week of the newcomer?
So help desk, this is
Help
called,
desk, yeah, or help group or help
yeah, it
support.
depends. It depends. So if you work for a bigger company, like for example Chase, or like a Bank of America or something, they do have help desk, right? Or if you will have DevOps. Either way, you will have somebody, right? So you either get help desk or you either get DevOps. If you call help desk and say, I don't know how to set up my automation, they will say, what is automation? What is this script? What are you talking about? Okay. But if you call help desk and you tell them my computer is shutting off and I don't know why this is happening, they will give you a new one. If you have a access problem, you can say, I cannot log in, I lost my password. They will help you. Help desk do not do engineering work. Help desk is there only to help you with your equipments, like your laptop, your microphone is not working, they give you a microphone or something. Maybe they give you iPhones because they want you to do iOS testing. Your iPhone got lost, or you somehow, you updated the OS system and it's no longer works. Whatever is the case, right? The help desk is there to help. Now, when it comes about the framework, you're going to say, hey, I would like to know who built the framework. And they said, oh, no, this person no longer works here. Okay, who could be the most knowledgeable person who actually created this framework? Because in your case, you're not going to see just one file. You're going to see hundreds of files into that automation framework. Now, if I joined the company, what I would do on the first day is that first I would do meet and greet on the first day, just learn who's who. Second day, get all the access. And then third day, I will start asking questions. Okay, where is your manual test cases? Can I read them? Can I see them? Where is the automation test? Okay, can I set up myself? And I'll show you guys as the later class how to set up after joining a company. And then once you set up the automated test, you cannot run it. Even if you know how to code like me, or maybe somebody even better, like somebody who's tycoon, who's just like naturally good coder, you still will not be able to run the test. And the answer why is because you didn't create the framework. When I create a framework, when somebody creates a framework, they create sets of rules, like in order to run what needs to be done, right? And those you need to know, right? For example, variables, they can name it differently. You need to know those variables. So now each framework comes with a document. If that document is missing and it doesn't have enough information, then you cannot run it. So you will have to reach out to somebody who's currently running the test and say, hey, I just want to see the first test being run. Once I know how to run the first test, I should be fine. So you take that, you start running the first test, and then slowly you run every possible test you can. And then take your time. A month, 1 month, let's say on your first month, they said, okay, start to write automation. You're going to say, hey, I would love to, but I think I need to learn about the product and the process before I jump into that, because otherwise I will probably not going to write the good automated test. So let me go ahead and do some manual testing in the beginning, that way I get enough knowledge on the application. So now you're spending 3 months or the first 4 months to just know about the product, the team, and the process. In the meantime, you'll have to work double time on your time, meaning at home, you have to say, okay, at some point in the 3 months, I have to start to write some automated tests. What can I do? What can I do? And then you'll have to keep running your tests. The best case will be, most of the companies, when they hire, at least your position, the way that I will have your resume set up is going to be like, we don't have automated tests yet. We would like you to do the automated tests, but for now we do manual. So you join the company, maybe the first year, or maybe the first year and a half, it'll be just manual. And then they will ask you when they're ready to do automation, or you will have to tell them when they are ready, because now you're part of the team and you will tell them like, okay, we're ready to do automation. So again, there will be multiple scenario where they will hire you for automation, but then they will make you do manual because they don't need automation. And that's the way it is, right? So let's see. With that said, I will see you guys tomorrow. If there's anything, we'll talk about tomorrow also. I think this was helpful for some of you guys, and those without a question, I think I'll have higher expectation. I'll take a screenshot of you guys that were here, or at least I'll take a screenshot from the video, and then I'll I'll later find out if you guys did the homework tomorrow. And obviously higher expectation from those who didn't ask questions today, since you guys are good. All right.
Goodness.
Thank
Good
you
night,
so much
guys.
for your time. Really,
Thank
really
you.
No
appreciate it.
problem. No
Have a good
problem.
night.
So
Good
much.
night, guys.
Thank
night.
you. Thank you.
Jewel bhai, actually, where I have to submit the homework on the WhatsApp group or the Slack?
Yeah, for now you can do WhatsApp group because that's where everybody's
Yeah,
responding.
like I submit you on a Slack privately on your message, but I think
Yeah,
you didn't see
Slack.
yet.
Yeah, Slack is like I think not everybody's using it, so do it in WhatsApp. And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you so
All
much.
right. Good night.
Good night.